As you know, it's Memorial Day weekend, and of course, the sales are on. And I got this email saying that this was an offer for a place that I wanted to tell you about. This site is called Billion Graves. And I just wanted to kind of explain this site and tell you some changes that I've seen, kind of my history with it a little bit, and see if it's right for you. Because if you're searching for, like what I do with Mystery Match DNA and looking for helping people look for where they fit into their family tree, this might cause you to need to do some genealogy research, right? You've got your matches and you need to figure out where those matches relate to you, which often involves going up their tree and searching relatives that are deceased. And so I have kind of a little bit of a history with Billion Graves, and I wanted to explain how it's different from Find a Grave and how it could be useful in your search. If you've done any kind of genealogical research whatsoever, you're probably familiar with Find a Grave. And you can go in and just input somebody's name and see their headstone. They might have a picture, they might have a tribute on there. They've got famous and non-famous. Um, they divide it by famous versus non-famous. And you can get a good deal of information about that, and it's linked through Ancestry. So if you've got an Ancestry account, Ancestry, newspapers.com, and Find a Grave are all kind of in cahoots, right? Where you can go search for somebody and you might want to search Find a Grave for them. So there's a link from Ancestry to go search this site to see what you can find on there. And sometimes there's good information, sometimes there's not. The information is only as good as what people are providing for it, right? So they have researchers that document people's headstones and provide obituaries and that kind of thing. The Billion Graves is a little bit different, and as you can see, I haven't used much of it, but when I first found this site, I was really excited about the premise of it because it was only $20 a year. And they had the lure was that they were going to take like GPS coordinates and you could find somebody's grave. So for me, searching for relatives that are in different states that I'm not familiar with and wanting to see, virtual renditions of their tombstones maybe, or maybe even wanting to go visit the headstone, then I was like, wow, I can virtually visit and it's just as good as going in person almost, or it'll give me the exact coordinates so that I can go see it in person. They had for a while a big push to volunteer to take photos, transcribe headstones, do all that kind of thing. And as far as I know, they're still doing it. But one of the main lures of it for me was that it was only like $20 a year to join this site and have access to this information. And I joined thinking I am all on board with this project. I want this to be a thing. And like I said, they were actively sending emails, recruiting me, saying, like, would you go take photos of headstones and everything, which I was not in the position to do. So I know that they were trying to build themselves up, and apparently they really have because their pricing is now quite a bit more than it used to be. Now they're talking about $14.99 a month for the mid-level plan. And like I said, substantially more, but it may be worth it if you're looking to really do some in-depth researching a cemetery. So they do have that AI intelligence. We can argue. Feel free to put in the comment. Do you agree with AI? Do you think that it's okay to use AI intelligence on something like researching headstones? I don't know. There might be some conflicting views about that, but this is what they're using now with this site. And you may be wondering, okay, what's the difference between this and find a grave, like I said? And here's everything that Billion Graves is able to do. And there's actually a section that talks about the difference between Billion Graves and Find a Grave. And it talks about how there's similarities and there's differences. But what I found really interesting in here was that Billion Graves says on this page that they talk about the genealogical proof standard. They they mention that Find a Grave is actually, I can't remember where it is on this page, but Find a Grave is actually it's owned by Ancestry. And so it all makes sense now, right? Like, no wonder one links to another. So that's a little bit different than Billion Graves, which is, more. Here it is. Okay. So Billion Graves is independently run and it partners with FamilySearch, MyHeritage, Find My Past for records. So you're probably not going to find, any kind of correlation with Ancestry when you use Billion Graves because Find a Grave is owned by Ancestry. So Ancestry is going to want to market that and be linked with Find a Grave as opposed to Billion Graves. So that's just something to keep in mind too. It says they have different purposes. Billion Graves is to document researched records and use genealogical standard of proof. I know that there was a recent video on Ancestry, ironically, that talked about genealogical proof standard for genealogy researchers that Krista Cowan did. But so that's kind of the difference is they're wanting to do that specifically. And obviously they want to make it sound like they're more thorough and complete than Find a Grave is. My, I guess, conclusion here is that Billion Graves may be helpful in your research. I was kind of stunned to see that the price has gone up so much because I didn't realize that it was much more expensive than when I first signed up for it. And I think I even let my $20 a month, I mean, a year membership lapse. But you may find it helpful in your research just because it is like GPS. And correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you can put in the comments, but I thought Find a Grave was starting to do that too. But my theory basically is that it's probably best to use both if you want to be totally thorough. And I'm not trying to tell you to use one or the other for my gain. I'm just saying that I think that both could be helpful in your research. If you've got a search that involves a lot of researching deceased relatives, then you're probably going to find some benefits from Find a Grave that you might not get from Billion Graves. I know Billion Graves says that it has 50 million headstone images, 175 million total records, but I mean, it's kind of like Ancestry and MyHeritage, right? They've all got records. Some things are available on one that aren't available on the other, and so your best bet is to use both in your research, but you might check it out and find that, you favor one site over the other as far as what it can provide. And if you can only afford to do one or the other, you might try both for a month or two and see which one helps you more. There is a lot of free information on Find a Grave, so there is that too, versus, needing the monthly membership for the GPS coordinates and so forth, and all the extras that they have. For the high resolution images, exact GPS locations, like I said, this used to be $20 a year. Record hints, intelligence credits, and all that. So you might check it out, see if it's worth your while, or you might decide that Find a Grave is worth it. And I think they have a Find a Grave Plus, but I don't know how much that costs. So, but either way, it's kind of amazing that in this day and age, we can do research thanks to other people that are doing the research and sites like this that make it possible to search far and wide around the world. Like I said, I'm not an affiliate for Billion Graves or Find a Grave, but you might look at the special. I'll link to it below if I can, so you can review more information about it and see if it's something that would be helpful in your research.